Hello everyone, and welcome to yet a new show. This one's the Analysis Corner. So what we'll do in this show is we will obviously analyze games. For now, just as a little first show, I've taken one of my new students' games. So obviously this is a game between two slightly weaker players, but I would just like to show you guys a bit more of, how and why you should be looking at your own games. Okay, when you're a bit of a weaker player, you should still look at your own games and try and see where you made mistakes. Okay, this is one of the things, if you watching my videos and you're acquiring knowledge like the opening rules and stuff like that, you still don't necessarily always apply it to your own games. So when you analyze your game afterwards, you can go and see, because now you have more time, you can go and look at yourself and you can go, okay, but here I broke an opening rule, or here I should have done that, or here I should have done that, or here I missed a tactic, here I could have just pinned him, here I could have just forked him. Okay, so these are the kind of things that you want to go and look at afterwards, and the reason why you want to do this is because it really does help you improve your chess. So in this game, there's a lot of opening rules that still get broken, which pretty much, things go haywire very quickly. Okay, it's a d4 game. What I will do as well is, of course, I will take stronger players' games as well, so that I can give you an idea of what the different rating category type of players are looking at in their games. Okay, and how they obviously can improve to try and find more things. Okay, so here we're actually looking from Black's point of view, because Black won the game. Black is also my student. So after d4, d5, c4, okay, knight f6, I don't like this move too much, only because you can definitely quickly give your opponent a very big center, which as a beginning player or just a weaker player, you don't want to make things tough for yourself for no reason. Okay, and of course if you take with the queen, then you're just giving your opponent a bunch of tempos. So now you have to move again, and basically white just gets a couple of moves in a row for no real good compensation for black. Okay, these are openings, I know that, but again, don't play these kind of things as a beginner, because you don't understand the deeper strategical concepts for black. Okay, so but after this queen a4, I mean this obviously, this move just completely breaks every opening rule I have tried to teach you guys. Okay, you're bringing out your queen early, you're attacking him and helping him to develop his pieces whilst attacking your queen. So after bishop d7, now of course queen's being attacked. So the queen b4, here things could have gotten very interesting. Black just played b6, which is okay, of course, he's just stopping the threat. Okay, but black can be a lot more aggressive by just using development. Okay, so after something like knight c6, okay, now obviously just attacking the queen. If the queen takes on b7, things get very messy very quickly. Let's say we play rook b8. Only move is queen a6, and after knight takes d4, now we have this big threat of forking. Okay, so how do you try and defend that? If you want to move your king, great stuff, thank you so much, because if you move your king, then obviously you can't castle anymore. Now you're in the center, it's not great. Let's say something like king d1, we could just play, let's say e5. I mean, we don't need to do anything fancy here or anything quick. We could probably just play e5 and just continue on with our development as quickly as possible. Okay, the loss of a pawn or two does not really matter much. Okay, but of course that is a bit of a more complicated situation. Okay, so I don't criticize b6. I just want to show you how quickly messy these things can get. Let's say knight a3, which is the obvious way of defending here. Then we play e5. Now what are we doing? We're recreating the threat. Okay, so we are threatening to take here, and then obviously play knight c2. So let's say e3 to try and defend this. When you go check. Okay, this king is starting to look very, very, very awkward out here. Doesn't really know what to do with himself. Okay, let's say play here. We take, and we play rook takes b2 check. And of course now we've won our pawn back. Things are getting very messy very quickly. I just want to see. Okay, let's say if he plays king here, we could just take here. If he takes here, we go check. And you can see that this king is running all over the show while our king is very, very safe. No problems for our king. Happy, happy, happy. Okay. So just an example of how, you know, this is basically a poison pawn. This is what they call this. You know, queen takes here. This is a very poison pawn because what has he done with any of his pieces? Nothing. So what do we want to do? We want to rapidly develop our pieces and attack, attack, attack. Okay. After b6, which is okay. Takes the pawn. Knight takes the pawn. Queen c4, e6. This is all okay. e6 helps you develop. Okay. So still, if we look at this, he still hasn't developed any pieces. Okay. So we're doing okay. But after this move, white does get a decent central pawn structure. Okay. After bishop, okay, e5. I don't like e5 again. Now this knight just has this really nice outpost. Okay, and the knight really does protect a lot of squares. Okay, which is very useful. Okay. After bishop d3, here there was a lot of tricks. Maybe I don't mind knight c6. Develops a piece. There's nothing wrong with this move. Okay. After a3. Okay. Let's criticize this move real quick a little bit here. Does this help you develop? No. So it's a real big waste of time. Okay. Anything on b4 was not really a threat. Any piece moving to b4 was not a threat. Okay. It wasn't something important that you had to deal with. So white should have just probably played knight f3 and get his king to safety and play chess. Okay. Here, unfortunately, okay, b5 would have been a really, really nice little trick. Okay. It sets up a discovered attack. Okay, so if the queen has to move anywhere else and doesn't take, then we just take on d4. Okay, and if the queen does take, then we still take on d4, which means this e5 pawn becomes very weak. We have a threat here. We also have a threat here. So he has to be very careful of where he goes to now. If queen c4, sorry, then just c5, just obviously protecting our new outpost. It's a really nice little outpost in the middle of the board. And let's say if he plays knight c3, something like this, developing a piece, we attack his queen. Queen would probably have to go to a6 or a2. If a2, then we can just play bishop c6, attacking this pawn here, threatening to win a rook. Okay, it gets really, really tricky to defend this. And if he tried to block, then we could just take and then fork again. So this fork becomes a big problem in almost every situation. If the queen goes to a6, then we have this trick again with the idea that if this bishop moves off this line, then we can obviously just go knight c2. So if we were to take, let's say we take back, queen takes and fork. Now we just win a rook. Okay, if he tried to move his bishop to e4, let's say, okay, now there are some trick moves here. Queen attacks, we attack his queen, queen goes to a5, and now we have a different fork. So you can quickly see how our pieces are very nicely placed everywhere. Let's say he moves check, we go here, he goes queen back here, we take his rook, we can just go check first. Okay, note that the king cannot go into this file here because otherwise we would have a discovered check either there or there, which would then attack the king and the queen at the same time. So after king goes, we take, and now we're just a complete piece up. Okay, let's go all the way back. This is a bit complicated. I do realize that. Okay. Knight a5 does attack the queen. It's not a terrible move either because, you know, white has to be careful where he goes with these pieces now. So queen c2. And here, c5 would make a lot of sense. Okay? This pawn chain is weak. Okay? So what you want to do is you want to attack it. Okay? Because if he takes, you take with the bishop and you get development. Okay? So while he's wasting time and not developing his pieces, once again, they're all stuck here in the back. You get to develop yours with tempos, etc. I guess there is a fork, maybe. Guess things could get a little messy, maybe. Well, even if he does take, you could probably even play... Oof, can we? Let's see. Let's see. If pawn takes here, I just wanted to see what happens if bishop takes and b4. Ah, we can play here. Okay, see? So, because our pieces are active, we have quite a few ways of getting out of any possible trouble moves. Okay, this piece is still really, really nice. There's no pawns that can chase away this knight. Okay. If you were worried about this pawn, okay, now after just takes here, now obviously we are threatening to attack his queen, okay, and this queen has to be careful where it goes to, because the queen has to now still protect his bishop. So let's say he moves his bishop back, we attack his queen, queen goes back, we play knight here. Okay, you can quickly see how things are going haywire here. We're threatening to take this bishop, we're threatening here, we're threatening here. If he takes, queen takes, then after check, king has to move, and we go check, and everything just starts falling apart. Okay, now you can see that the knight is defending the rook, so you can't take here. If there, we go check, and you can quickly see that this king is starting to run all over the show. It's not very nice for him. Okay, so again, his king doesn't get to castle, and look at the position. We still have these pieces stuck here, having done nothing. Okay, it's important to be fairly aggressive when you are ahead in development. Okay, now unfortunately he plays g6 here because he doesn't want him to play bishop takes h7. But you don't mind him doing that purely for the reason that if he does, then obviously, you know, he's again moving pieces twice, which is one of the opening rules. He's brought out his queen, he's moving pieces twice, so you need to punish this by just playing actively with all of your pieces. Okay, after b5, things get a little messy here. Bishop goes here. There was a nice little shot here after bishop g5. He played queen c8, but check out this one. Okay, the idea is simple. We attack his queen as well, so it's a counter attack. If he takes with the knight, then the bishop is undefended, so we win a pawn. And if he tries anything else, like let's say if he tries to move his queen, okay, wherever the queen goes, then we can take check. Okay, and then of course attacking both, and if he takes back, the knight is no longer defending. So let's say something like here, just as a variation for you, we take check, takes, okay, I guess he defends the piece. So is there anything else we can play here, just out of interest? Well, I mean, in this position here specifically, you know, his king is exposed, you know, he's got a very bad pawn structure. This pawn is a little weak, he has to be careful of that. So in this position, I definitely don't think we're doing badly either. Oh, just so we can go back real quick. Yeah, we would have to do this. It's the best we can do. But still, we did win a pawn. Don't forget, we did win a pawn. Okay, so you can just move your queen away, etc. So there was this lovely little shot here, which would have been very interesting. And again, it just exploits the fact that white's pieces are underdeveloped, okay, and everything is trying to protect each other, but it's a little messy. Okay, so after queen c8, castle, so white's finally, I mean, you can see he only has these two pieces still here. We still have to castle as well, so after castling, white's still a tempo behind, but white seems to be okay now. This move, I have no idea why he played here. I mean, you know, you have one defender and there's two attackers. So anyway, after takes, he just loses a pawn, and after this he loses another pawn. Okay, not very good. So not looking at which pieces of his are not being defended. This is something you can just do all the time, okay? Whenever you want to make a move, make sure that all of your pieces are defended, and if you put something somewhere, make sure it's also okay, okay? I mean, it's a basic thing. I know it's for beginners, but this is just something to do over and over again. Is it safe? Is it safe? Is it safe? Okay, things get a little out of hand here. Here... So the bishop attacks the rook. Okay, now the best option is just to move the rook. Just get the rook out of this line, no problem. You don't have to worry and stress about issues. After the move c6, now there's this pin here, okay? And white could have played a little bit more accurately here with rook d6 attacking the pawn, and obviously wanting to double up his rooks, okay? It's important to put your pieces in nice active places. Okay. he did play b5, which, you know, kind of also does attack at least. Okay, what do we do to pin pieces? We attack them again. Okay, and here things get a little messy. f5 was not the best move. Luckily the opponent didn't see a trick. Okay, the opponent played bishop f3, just dropping back. Okay, but there is this nice little counter shot here. Boom. Let me just do that right. There we go. Taking the bishop. Okay, nice intermezzo. And now, if you take the rook, the bishop takes here and forks you back. So white ends up winning a pawn back. Okay, which means black is only a pawn up in that variation. Okay, luckily for him, he moved back here, and then he plays e5, still not heeding the warning. Okay, just get your rook out of the file. You know, you make a simple move like this. You don't have anything to stress about. Get out of there. Maybe you can even play after this. You could play e5, e4, or you could play c5 as well, because then you have this. Then you have this attack on this b pawn as well. You know, so it gives you options. I guess you could just take the b pawn as well, because the knight is pinned. Okay, so after rook b8, black would just be much better. You have 2 pawns extra, no problems at all. e5, things again. You know, you could have just played rook takes d7. And if you take, I still have this idea, and, you know, obviously forking the queen and rook. Again, black would still be a pawn up, but, you know, you don't need to lose material here. There is also, okay, so after pawn takes pawn, bishop takes, okay, a little bit lucky here, because again, there are some ideas here. We could play knight d5, which threatens this big fork here. Okay, and if you do take it, bishop takes check, king goes here, queen a5. Why? Because this is being attacked. The rook is the only thing defending the pawn, and now we attacking the pawn. So after rook b8, which is the only move, queen takes a7, and now suddenly, you know, black is only a pawn up. And one of the key things in this position to note here is the opposite colored bishops. Okay, I know these are beginners, okay, but, you know, for stronger players, we know that opposite bishops can be very, very tricky to try and win. Okay, because they're very drawish. If we swap off all the big pieces, like these guys, we trade off all of them, then with the opposite bishops, it becomes very hard to create any real chances to win the game. Okay, let's go back. From here, for some odd reason, white wants to trade off. You know, the last thing you want to do is trade off pieces when you are down material. If you're up material, of course, that's what you want to try and do, but be careful as well. So here you can see he's trading off everything. Black doing a nice little job here of, you know, just doubling up here. Knight moves, queen takes, and, you know, as you can see, white is helping black here. He does get some activity, but white is helping black by, you know, swapping off pieces. Here black goes astray again. This could be really, really messy, okay? Because he wants to swap off queens, which I understand. But if you do so, you have to also be careful to give your opponent a lot of activity here. Okay, so after the takes, check, rook goes here. If white had played rook d7, now suddenly you can see this rook, okay? Beautiful piece. Okay, it's on the open file here. It's doing a lot of work. It's attacking this pawn as well. So if you lose a pawn, then it starts becoming harder and harder to win with your extra pawns, because you only have 2 of them, and if you lose them both, then, you know, it's a problem, because these 2 pawns are very, very weak in this position. You have to be very careful not to lose them. Okay, so by playing rook f8, you give the guy the chance to get his rook to the 7th rank and really, really put pressure on your pieces here. This knight is much stronger than the bishop, because the knight can hop around and do all the kinds of things that you don't want it to do. Okay, this bishop is stuck here a little bit. It's really not having an easy time. So, you know, let's show a little variation. If you play a5, I play knight d5. Now I'm attacking this pawn again. So we're trying to get these 2 pawns here because they're very weak. And if you try to defend it, I could just take it, because there's a little cheap trick here. If you take back, I go check. Now you have to block, and I win the piece back. And now it becomes much harder for you to try and win this, because you're only 1 pawn extra. Okay, and rook endgames are not so easy. And the big problem is that white's rook is still very, very active versus yours. Let's say you go here, I go here, you have to defend, and I play here maybe. Why? Trying to cut off your king. I'm still attacking here. So my rook is much more active than yours. Okay? This is an endgame concept, which I will cover as well in some endgame basics. Okay? But basically what you want is you want your pieces to be active. Simple as that. Always, in any position ever, you want your pieces to be active. Okay, let's go back. Obviously, a little bit of oversight from white as well, because he took here, and now he thought that he, obviously he forks the 2 pawns. Okay, so he does attack the 2 pawns, but he loses his own as well. So after takes here. Now black does the right thing, he activates his king, because the king in the endgame, when there is not many pieces left on the board and checkmate is much harder to do with the pieces that are on the board, then you want to use your king, because the king is a very strong piece as well. So he attacks the pawn, and now the king defends the pawn, brings up his king as well, but now the past the b pawn does the work for him, and obviously knight. He decides to sacrifice his knight, and the rest of the game is fairly easy. Just gobble up pawns, get a queen, checkmate your opponent. So in the end, black did play a little bit better than his opponent, but he could have done a lot of different things better. So the key things in this game is to really, really focus on your opening rules. Okay, so what you want to do is, if you play a game yourself, is after the game, win or lose, you can still go look at it and go and look at these concepts. Look if you see if you missed any tactics, like forks, pins, skewers. See if you made some bad moves in the opening, and try and make sure that the next time you try to do better. That's all it is, because if the next time you do better, and you become more consistent, then your rating is going to climb. Okay, you take a guy who, like me, who's 2,100, 2,200, I barely have to think about opening rules, because I do them automatically, because I know that it is the right thing to do. Okay, please guys, hit me some likes. I think also what we might do is, maybe if you want, if you want me to analyze specific games, maybe you can post them, you can send them to me. Maybe I should put my email address down at the bottom, but that's probably not a good idea, is that? You guys are gonna go nuts. Maybe I can create one for this kind of purposes and stuff. Okay, please leave some comments, give me some ideas, if you guys want to see stuff, you want to do stuff, and please do look forward for my Twitch account, which I will add soon, where I will do simmels, I will do blitz battles, I will do the usual stuff that the guys do. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you guys soon.